And we are now live. Alex, it's such my pleasure to host you again today. Today, we're talking at our Canum Holistic Clinic all about animals and their treatment. And we have many individuals who are interested in working with you. And we're going to talk a little bit about today about animals and their healing reactions. So, maybe we'll just start and speak generally about what a healing reaction is to start, and then we'll get specifically into dogs, cats, and horses.
Yeah,
Describe for me, yeah, you already know. Go for it.
I'm so excited because I have beautiful stories about healing reactions, and I can't wait to get there. Um, yeah, so the healing reaction truly is the organism restoring itself to balance after the remedy has cleared out the disease process. And it's a beautiful, beautiful process because, on the one hand, when it comes to the animals, it's actually showing us that the remedies are working. And it's showing us that the animal's organism knows exactly where they're at their timeline. It is so beautiful to watch, really. Um, and probably the most important thing for the owners to know is that the organism never throws a bigger healing reaction than it can handle. And so everything that we see is really meaningful and special. And I always tell people to approach that subject with curiosity, to observe their animal with curiosity instead of with worry. Because animal will always bounce back the energy you're giving it, the attention you're giving it. So people who tend to worry about their animals give them things to worry about. If you're just watching it with curiosity, then they're going to give you things that are going to go, they're going to give you insights. They're going to give you, nice surprises. They're going to give you revelation. So it really, like, that's how we have to approach it.
Mhm. I totally agree with you. And you're right. I'm thinking of one particular patient that I have served recently, and you're right. The moment that we think, oh, this is concerning, I'm afraid, I'm worried, and the animal just starts to exhibit the same kind of stress and worry and anxiety that the owner is projecting.
Yes, yes. And that is especially true for dogs. They will always do that. And then when it comes to raw food change, for example, that is another one that I have noticed. For all the people that have dealt with over the years that have switched their dogs to raw food, people that were concerned about how it's going to go, there were all sorts of problems. Animal
Yeah.
would either throw up or have diarrhea, or this would happen or that would happen. If the owner was not concerned, nothing ever happened. They just switched painlessly, And like, I have switched every one of my dogs just cold turkey, regardless of age, regardless of health, regardless of anything, because I had so many rescues that I was like, I refuse to buy dog food. That's it. And
Brilliant.
it's the same with the healing reaction. So
And
just
why do you
don't be
think our
concerned.
dogs, especially, are our mirror?
Because our, well, the entire world really is the mirror of human physiology. Human
Mhm.
organism, you could say, is the template for the natural world. Now, I could talk about this for like 2 hours. But the human physiology, we are all folded space and folded time. And in a way, our particular organs represent that folding, is how the animals show up in a world with that same powers and forces and time and space being folded in exactly the same way as our organs. Well, a dog is folded exactly the way human heart is. So there is no accident that we say the dog is man's best friend. There's absolutely no
Mhm.
accident to that. It is because there is the exact resonance in physiology between dog and a human heart. So that is why dogs will show more than others.
My dog is my
So
human
actually,
heart for
I
sure. He's the best part of my love function.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But it really, it just goes really down to basic physiology when it comes to the forces of the will and the rhythm and the nerve sense system. The way, the
Mhm.
exact proportion, the exact interaction of these forces, heart, canine, same thing.
Yeah, cool. That's so interesting. Yeah, I
And
love
now,
that.
we can go into the subject deeper maybe another time, but there is also the flip side to it, which is the wolf, that is the most hated animal that has ever been in the world, right? And we know that love and hate are really just the two sides of the same coin, because hate is not opposite to love. Indifference is opposite to love. So, you know, dog and a wolf, here you have the animal we love the most and the animal we hate the most. But one actually
Mm.
resonates with the way human heart functions in the daytime, which is the dog, and the other resonates with the way human heart functions at nighttime, and that is the wolf. So
Fascinating.
I
My
actually wrote that in my book Dogs, the
uh,
subject.
Awesome. And Kevin Behan, who also is was from Vermont, he did a lot of
I
research
know it.
on wolves. Yeah, I know him very well. Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
super cool. Yeah, on natural dog training and such. And so yeah, just to watch that German Shepherd being really participated with his animus intact, because the understanding of the wolf and that love, hate, or fear polarity was entirely respected. And I think, the domesticated animal has had so much of that bred out of them because man is so terrified of that of our primal nature.
Well, this is where, yeah, right, right. But we also have to be very careful not to put them in the same basket, because there is a great polarity between dog and a wolf. Like, look at how plastic a dog is, meaning that we have managed to make a dog into all sorts of shapes and sizes, right? From the teacup poodle to Irish
Yeah.
wolfhound, and everything in between, right? Dog is plastic. Like, whatever you want him to be, he becomes that. Wolf, you cannot change at all.
Mm.
People have tried, right? So this whole story, the dog came out of being domesticated wolf, that's total bullshit. Never happened. So they're completely different. And in fact, I always speak so against the wolf dog hybrid, because what you have, you literally have two animals in one body, and neither one is ever happy.
Mm.
A dog is never happy without a human, a wolf is never happy with a human. And it's just the tragedy and the struggle that these animals suffer within, that only comes out in, like, in special circumstances, and then you really see it, and then it's just so incredibly sad. It's like they should never be mixed. It's the same as what happens in a human heart when the valves aren't working properly and the
Mm.
venous and the arterial blood start to mix. Not meant to happen, right?
Interesting.
Both are blood, do not mix. It's the same rule.
We had a Samoyed that was, I would say, more wolf like than she was domesticated. And all she wanted to do was leave and head to Siberia and kill rabbits on the way. And there was not anything that I could do to convince her of a different way of being. There was no way. Mhm.
Yeah. So obviously dogs have this great spectrum, right, of how
Yeah.
they will behave, because
Mhm.
there's canine traits just in general, right? So there is that. But yeah, and even, it is so rare even that the wolf would accept the dog.
Mhm.
So there are those super rare instances where, a feral dog joined the wolf pack. But generally speaking, a dog shows up in a wolf pack, they'll be killed. Like, they
Yeah.
don't, they don't tolerate.
Don't tolerate. Mhm. Yeah. So we've given a dog their first remedy. They have their emotional support now, their drainage and organ support. You've cleared the first event off their timeline, and you get a call 12 to 15 days into the process. What is it that you're hearing is happening?
Yeah. So it depends what event we clear.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, clearing vaccination will result in some form of a detox most of the time. I say most of the time there will be diarrhea, but like one time, maybe just one time or for one day. And then it will either smell really bad or have a weird color, or there will be something really unusual about it, or be like super hot. So it's like dog poops and the steam is coming off of it or whatnot. That is what I see most often. Now, another thing that impacts animals greatly is the surgery.
Mhm.
It's so interesting. I mean, when you think about it, even for humans, like we know what's going to happen, but going into that, falling asleep stage is really traumatic. But for animals, it's even worse so because they're losing control of their breathing, they're losing control of their right consciousness, but they don't really know what's going on. So it's like
Right.
terrifying on steroids. So when they're recovering, they'll go through all sorts of things. Um, One very common thing that people don't think about is that they'll go through coughing, gagging, shortness of breath, which could all happen just because of that I'm losing control of my breath and because of the
Right.
tube that they're putting down. So,
Mhm.
it's like you don't expect animal to cough recovering from a surgery, but they do, right? So that is one healing reaction that is common. Another one that happens mostly with females being spayed is temporary incontinence.
Mhm.
Because when you think about it, when they are spaying a female, they're cutting right down the conception meridian. It's like really the worst thing you could do. Such a major pathway, but it gets sliced right down that way. Um, so that is quite common for females. Um, what else do they go through? Any like emotional events, grief events, they can become either really aloof or they can become like super clingy. Um, and then going going down the timeline as they become younger and younger on their timeline, they will many times they will be exhibiting behaviors that they exhibited when they were pups.
Yeah.
So, for example, I remember one dog that as she got to her puppyhood, she started sleeping and suckling in her sleep, which obviously she hasn't done forever, right? But you know, so that's like really cute. And then sometimes they will show you exactly like what is going through. I remember um, I treated this one horse, and we went through his gelding surgery, equivalent to neutering in dog. And I did warn the owner trainer what we are going through. So I said, if he's acting funny or whatever, I mean, it's a major shocking event for an animal. So she said, so what happened is like the horse was supposed to be ridden, and then the people were calling her like, come over, something is wrong with him. And so she comes over, and he was literally standing with his hind legs completely crossed and would not move. And then
Mhm.
she remembered that I told her what he was going to go through. She's like, oh, never mind. He's not being ridden today. um, so yeah, they will show you, and that is really the beauty, right? When you see like,
Mhm.
okay, so the remedies are definitely doing their job, and the animal's organism definitely knows what he's going through. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well
it's very
said.
cool. So
Yeah.
it's just
And,
just
and
to kind of
clearing our genetic miasms and sora. They'll start biting their paws, for example, because of the itch
Right.
disease.
They may start to
They
get super itchy.
excessive
Mhm.
scratching, almost like eczema or dry skin, and
Right. Right.
tuberculinum. They'll also go through coughing, like you said, metaurinum, also coughing, wet, mucus. It's interesting. I had a dog whose breeder suffered metaurinum, and she suffered blindness. And when we went through metaurinum, the dog's eyes all swelled up and got super agglutinated and all kinds of like weeping, and the eyes almost looked like they turned inside out. It was the most amazing thing. And like you say,
So
dogs
glad you
with
brought
the,
that up.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, because dogs can go through, well, animals in general, right? They can go through healing reaction in response to their own timeline, but many
Yeah,
times they will go through a healing reaction in response to their owner's timeline.
yeah.
So, for example, this happened to me personally. Um, I had a period in my life where some incompetent ophthalmologist declared that I was going blind. Now, I went through like emotional roller coaster because at the time, like my son was 2 years old, and all these things are going through my head. I want to see what he looks like when he grows up, and it just, just yeah, I was a basket case basically until I, took matters in my own hands, and obviously I'm not blind. But when I was going through that period on my timeline, one of my dogs went blind.
Ah,
So mind you, I'm just clearing that event. This is years later. I'm clearing that emotional impact, and that my dog goes blind for no reason. Just all of a sudden he's bumping into everything, and I'm just like, oh my god. you know. And then as it passed for me, it passed for him. It would just like show up out of nowhere, disappear out of nowhere. So like, don't anybody be surprised, if they do that.
yeah.
Right.
It's fascinating. I again had a patient with cysts on her with cysts on her ovaries, and the male dog ended up getting a cyst right on his scrotum on the ureters. And it was like a mirror. It was on the exact same size as the side as the patient. Same thing, cysts on patient had right knee, back patella issues. The dog, same, right back patella. Lots and lots of knee issues, arthritic complaints. And we see this all the time. So you're so right. When we clear it in the dog and or in the patient, the human patient, same thing, that the dog resolves or things temporarily get worse depending
Yeah.
on what phase of the 4-beat cycle we're in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely fascinating to watch. It really
Yeah,
is. But
it
that is
is.
why, right? You have to watch it with curiosity, right? And we can't get, scared, and we can't,
Yeah.
for example, like just
Yeah,
curiosity is the cure
project
for
our fear
everything.
and terror. Yeah, and that's the thing, because in allopathic
Right.
medicine, whether it's allopathic veterinary science or human traditional medicine, is that we all have this relationship. We're related to each other, and it's, you really miss a divine opportunity to be able to resolve issues in the human, but also in the animal dynamically. If you're just, of the slash and burn medicine where you're just cutting stuff out, there's a big opportunity, missed if we don't get to have the dynamic healing reactions in company with each other. If you just cut the cyst
Right.
out, or you just, put uh, salve on the sore, you don't really ever get to understand the underlying cause and meaning. And I think that too is what the healing reaction is all about, is teaching us what really is the anatomy of that symptom or suffering.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's really beautiful, and Everything the body does has a reason. Nothing
Yeah.
is just because. So
No.
we can't really remove things just because, we don't like it or whatever.
Yeah, well said. And it always ends up coming and biting us in the ass, proverbially, proverbially,
That's right.
because it's always going to come back around, just be illustrated in a different way. Because the divine essence of human and animal always wants us to be conscious of the meaning behind suppression.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Because at the end of the day, that living power cannot be suppressed, right? It's just like a river. You don't just get to block it.
Yeah.
It's gonna find a way around.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Yeah.
So yeah, and possible healing reactions, panting, runny nose,
Oh, yeah.
overly tired, or overly wakeful, diarrhea in the middle of the night on the brand new carpet, fever,
That's just Murphy's Law.
hairballs.
That's just Murphy's
Totally.
Law.
Yeah,
Dairy on a
totally.
brand new carpet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even I
But
noticed, yeah, go ahead.
no, finish. I'll remember what
Yeah,
I was
just
gonna
to
say.
say that the
You
other
notice?
day I was walking my pup, and he's doing the first round of genetic miasms, and I was clearing syphilis. And I'm training him to actually be able to go off lead. So when we come out of the house early in the morning, there's nobody else in our alleyways as we go down to the main town, and he's been amazing. Absolutely a mirror. And it's not something I've just trained him with love. And he will mirror me, and he'll race by, and then he stops himself. It's the cutest thing. His little paws dig in, and he stops and he looks up at me, and then he continues, but he's really almost like he's dynamically healing. Like he just knows that it's been the most amazing thing. And he's only been trained with love, not with any skill on my part. So I just cleared syphilis and remembered that I had cleared something, but I didn't remember what it was. And he took off. And he never does that. He went up the alleyway, and I went up after him, and I thought, this is interesting. I wonder what we're clearing. And I came back home and I checked, and we're exactly between 12 and 15 days of having cleared syphilis. And I had sensed the tone had changed because his behavior was very different from what it has been over several months.
Yeah.
And so
Self-sabotage, right? Once you run out
exactly,
on the road, then
self-sabotage, exactly. And he did this. He ran across the road,
yeah.
far enough in front of a car, but I thought that's not like him. It's not his typical behavior because we've been working on these skills for, gosh, 6 months now. So I was super surprised. And when I saw that it was SIF, exactly what you're saying, self-sabotage, taking unnecessary risk, near misses, with that particular genetic miasm. And I thought, okay, well, we're going to be back on the lead for the next little while until we're at the other end of this particular healing reaction. And then he can go back to, the status quo of the so-called training. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the really cool thing about healing reactions
Yeah.
is that we know about the direction. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That the body will always push things out and down. So from the noble organs out towards the skin, from head towards the tail. And that's really common and well known. But another thing that is so cool is that there will always be something that's super unusual. So, for example, a dog that has high fever should be lethargic. But for example, you have a dog that's so hot, like to the touch, but he's running around and playing and eating like nothing's going on. And you're like, that's odd.
Yeah.
So every time that you think that's odd, it's a healing reaction.
Yeah.
Or like he can be see this actually, where a dog is completely lethargic, like not moving, like for 2 days, not moving. But
Yeah.
you look at his eyes and they're bright, and they're engaged, and he's following you everywhere, where you are. It's like, that's, like that's odd. So every time you say that's odd, it's like, yeah, there will be something that's non-normal, that like a disease in that way would not behave like that. So there is something out of the ordinary, you know.
Yeah.
Always, always.
Well said. Yeah, when the patient says, "Well, it looks like a typical so and so, like a fever, but it's not exactly like it's the exactly what you're
Right,
saying. There's always a nuance. The healing reaction never follows the chronic constant nature of disease. It always has some weird
right,
twist of lime or a nuance that doesn't follow the typical symptom picture.
right, right.
Yeah.
Always like that.
Uh-huh. And with regards, how long do you say to your patients, how long does a typical healing reaction last?
So most of them, in terms of appearance, most of them will show up from 2 hours to 2 weeks after the remedies.
Yeah.
It's like that's what they'll fall. I say 95% of them will fall in that one. And then how long they last, they really don't last that long. I'd say a couple of days most commonly, tops. But most of the time, it's even just like a one incident of something, or one day of something, or a few hours of something, and then they're done.
Yeah.
So it has never been like any kind of a grand project
Mhm.
that I can think of really.
Yeah. And what is your
Just because
typical
I think animals,
advice?
they let go.
Yeah. What is your
Typical
typical
advice
advice? I
is
guess
just,
that not like give it so much heed that you're actually creating more anxiety for the animal. Is it, like you say, just to look more at it through curiosity and help to make them
yeah, just
comfortable
observe
without
with
putting
curiosity.
a,
Don't try,
yeah.
yeah, like don't try to fix it, right?
Mhm.
Um, it is. I honestly haven't seen in an animal that the healing reaction becomes so crazy that we need to remedy it.
Right.
Really, just letting it be, it passes. In fact, it's funny, in my language, we have the saying, uh, a wound on a dog, it will heal. And it's basically telling you, let it be, let it be.
Yeah.
Now, if it's something, really, really, to the point of being destructive in some way and we need to remedy, of course, they can always, reach out to me and we deal with it. But honestly, I haven't seen it. It's like basically just let it be.
Yeah.
Don't fix it. Don't.
Yeah. And just
And it's
remind me how
never
many
really.
years you've been in practice, Alex?
I think I have issue with keeping time. I have no gift with keeping time. But I graduated in 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. It's been a while. What's that then? Yeah. 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep. That's long enough to have gone through a few healing reactions with thousands of patients.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And
Very
even
nice.
as a student, I was going through them with my own animals. So,
Yeah. So 20
yeah,
years then. Easy.
yeah, pretty much.
Mhm.
Yeah. And of
Yeah.
course,
And
mine have been more dramatic than any patients I've seen.
funny that, isn't it?
They had to teach me everything that can happen. You know?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
understand. My children as well. That was true. Mhm.
Right. Yeah. Like it's always your own. That's the worst.
Yeah. Understood. All right, my friend. Well, I so appreciate you meeting with me today. I know that patients will so love having really your expertise and your insights and your reassurance as they go through healing reactions with their own dogs, cats, horses, gerbils, tortoises, whatever they happen to bring to you for Heilkunst treatment. I love that we had a chance to talk about healing reactions in animals today. I'm really interested in going further with you. So, in a future webinar, I think it would be super fun to talk about soul spiritual relationship between animal and human, and really get into the meat and bones of Heilkunst as it relates to the astral formation of the animal in our lives.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'd look forward to
All right.
that. Yeah.
Me too. All right, my friend. Adios. Have a really good afternoon, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you for your time.
You as well. Talk soon. Bye bye.
Bye, honey.